All right. Now seems like as good of a time as ever to get started with what I think is going to be a really rewarding and exciting conversation. We are here to talk about the Lone Star Rising and hear from so many great folks from across the state of Texas. We all had a chance to chat before we got started, and it just reminded me how much good work there is being done all across this great state. So for those of you who I haven't had the pleasure of meeting yet, my name is Hannah Horick, and I am the president of the Texas Young Democrats and the former Ector County Democratic Party chair. So I have been right there where a lot of our panelists are today. I served a term and a half out in Ector County before moving back to where a lot of my family comes from, something I have in common with my dear friend Mike in Georgetown, Texas. And I get to welcome him along with some really, really wonderful folks to this conversation. So it's my pleasure to introduce, we've got 4 county chairs joining us this evening. The first is Sheena King from Collin County. We have John Hatch from Hays County, Michael Fladmark from Henderson County, and Juanita Martinez from Maverick County. Overall, these are folks who I have loved watching do really, really good work. Some of them have been chairs for a number of years. Some of them are relatively new to the great job that is being a Texas County chair. But regardless, they are doing really, really cool things in their communities that are centered around their communities. And that is truly, I think, representative of so much of what Lone Star Rising and what the work of Texas Democratic Party this cycle looks like. So I'm just thrilled to get to share this conversation. Before we dive into panel questions and discussions and really get into the nitty-gritty of what this looks like and what this work means here in Texas, I want to take a moment to introduce somebody who I've really loved working alongside here in Texas. And that is somebody who knows what it means to show up for rural counties and for counties all across the state, whether they are small or large, urban or rural, and everything in between. And that is my dear friend, Mike Collier, who is an advocate at heart. He's run for office, but he's not stopped there. He's shown up for folks. Like I said, we've got some similar roots here in Williamson County where some very exciting things are happening. But at the end of the day, he knows the importance of family and freedom and hard work, and has shown that every step of the way, advocating for folks like teachers who got a big win yesterday on election day, and so much more. So I am very excited to hand off to my friend Mike Collier.
Well, thank you so much, Hannah. I'm honored to be invited back to say a few words. I can't tell you how much I miss you all. I miss being in the fight day in and day out. I'm back to earning a living. I got to pay the light bill. But I think about the important work that we do all day, every day, and I'm not done. I don't know what I'm going to do precisely. I do know that I'm going to help other candidates, having run 3 statewide races and worked on this for 10 years. To the extent that I've made mistakes, I don't want anybody else to remake those. To the extent that I learned along the way, I want folks to learn. It's absolutely essential that we win a statewide race. We are democracy. Don't even think about what happens to us in this country and in our state when the folks on this call give up. We must never give up, and we're making great progress. We were disappointed in the outcome in 2008. But I can tell you, and I could bore you with the details. I won't. Call me if you'd like, but I can show you that we are making headway. And where we make headway, we don't retreat. We were talking about this earlier. Harris County, where I live, the Democrats did very, very well in 2018, and Republicans were absolutely determined to push us back, and they couldn't. They try in the Valley, and they don't. Where we win, where we are in charge, people get a taste of what it really means to have Democrats concerned about the community, concerned about one another's welfare, working honestly, dealing with the real issues and not the made-up issues. People get a taste of that, and they don't want what they're getting. And what happens around the state, and this is why county party chairs are so unbelievably important, because if it wasn't for you, then Republicans would believe what Fox News tells them about it. And what's so important about county chairs and all the work that county chairs do, personally and also in recruiting other candidates, is to get our point of view out there so that people, when I hear Juanita say the word community, it makes my heart leap for joy. That's where we're coming from. That's what we're about. And Fox News paints a picture of us, and sadly, people believe it. It leads to a number of bad things. One of it, it takes a heck of a lot of courage to do what you're doing and to be a Democrat in places where you're surrounded by Republicans. But when they see us and hear from us and our point of view and the words that we choose that just cut right to the heart of who we are as Democrats. For example, we believe in freedom. So important, the freedom to vote, the freedom to live and love as you wish, the freedom to make your own decisions about your health and the rest. When they hear our point of view and it's compelling, it really, really matters. And the only other thing I'd like to say, particularly thank you to county party chairs. I can tell you, as somebody who has devoted all of my time in politics to winning statewide, county party chairs are absolutely essential because you know what people are thinking and what they're talking about and what's being written and op-eds to the letters, to the editors, and how to communicate. And the way I might talk about public education in one part of the state is not the same as I would talk about it in another part of the state. And the county party chairs know that, and they have the relationships. And when you're running statewide, I just got to tell you, an active, engaged county party chair is so unbelievably valuable to what we're doing. And so I want to say thank you for all the help that I've gotten in previous campaigns. Thank you for staying in this fight. I'll close by saying, count on me. Stay in this fight with you. Hannah will tell you what role I'll have. We'll figure that out in due course, but I am not going to exit the field until Democrats have won statewide in this state. So have a great meeting tonight, a great and productive meeting tonight, and I'll see you out there, okay? Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you so much, Mike.
Thank you very much.
I am always so motivated and empowered when I get to be in the same space as Mike, whether it's physically or virtually in spaces like this. I am just always reminded of somebody who loves Texas and keeps showing up. And so I really, really appreciate that message. I think that starts us off on the right foot. So I'm going to jump in with a panel question for all of our participants. So whoever feels moved by this question, it's yours for the taking. And that is, that I think that one of the most inspiring things about doing Democratic Party work is that we're surrounded by individuals who are putting in time, often unpaid, to do grueling work of persevering or preserving, my apologies, our democracy. Can each of y'all talk a little bit about why you decided to take on the role as county chair?
This is Sheena King. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Oh,
ma'am.
sorry,
Go
Michael.
for it.
Okay, sorry. I am literally sitting in an airport. I just got off a flight. And so I can definitely relate to this question. So it's definitely not the pay, because we do have paid jobs that, as Mike mentioned, help to fund our real lives. But the reason why I jumped in is because representation matters. We were talking about this a little bit before the call started, and it's true. In my opinion, this was bigger than just me. I am in what is currently a purple county, and it's changing. The demographics are changing. The culture is changing. The communities are changing. And we need representation that actually reflects that change. And who better to step into a moment such as this? I have been in the community for over 15 years and have seen the changes and wanted to make sure that someone was there who could actually lead us through this time. I live in a county where Ken Paxton is the talk of the town, and that is not what we are representing. And so we want to make sure that we have leadership that shows up for the community at large and not just a small pocket. So for me, it was all about doing something in service to others and something bigger than just myself, making sure that our community had a voice that reflected their needs and their wants. So reputation matters. And I just could not stomach the thought of not having proper leadership or representation to reflect the community that we are growing into within Collin County.
That is wonderful. And I think you are such a wonderful representation of that community. Thank you, Sheena. All right, I'll hand off to John.
Well, for me, I've been involved in Texas politics since 1986 when I graduated from A&M and came to Austin. Don't hold that against me. Came to work for Gary Morrow and ended up having the opportunity to work for Ann Richards and others. And so when I moved to Hays County to run a congressional campaign, my candidate lost, but my wife and I decided to stay. And And so I've been involved in efforts all over Texas, and I'm just kind of at that point in my life when our current county chair decided he actually got a great job in North Carolina. And I wanted to step in because we were just at that cusp of, the funny thing, we had a Republican who ran for district attorney, and he was all upset that there was no way he lost last year because he spent $400,000 and there was just no way he could have lost. And my attitude was like, well, the first thing you should do is fire your Republican consultant, because Hays County's been blue since 2018. We just haven't been blue all the way down the ballot. Obama lost it by 7,000 votes. Hillary loses it by 600 votes. Beto wins it by 11,000 votes in 2018. Biden wins it by 10,000 votes in 2020. But we lost two countywide races and a county commissioner. And so we realized we had 4,000 people who voted for president walked out the door. And so we spent all of 2022, encouraging them to finish the ballot. And we went from 4,000 to 1,300, and we swept everything. And it's that kind of motivation. Now it's a matter of the excitement for me is that I'm just at a point in my life where my business world's calmed down and I can devote more to Hays County. And because I think that if we win Hays County one more time and we stomp them like we can, then the Republicans are going to have to go somewhere else to try to win, because they're just wasting money here, and we're happy to let them do that.
Amen to that. Thank you, John. I'm going to hand off to Juanita Martinez. Why did you become chair?
I'm listening to y'all, and my answer is more simplistic. Trump winning scared the hell out of me. And basically, we are a blue county, but we used to be 95% Democrats. And we are down to 72, I think. We're still a blue county, but for the first time in history, this past election, we had 8 Republican candidates running against our Democrat candidates. And we took it seriously. Of course, they didn't have a chance, but we took it seriously. Our candidates took it seriously, and we are still a blue county. But honestly, one of my friends, because this job does not pay, I'm retired from the school district after 35 years working with children. And a friend of mine asked me, because she saw me diligently working on something with the Secretary of State, some paperwork and things I had to do, and it's a big responsibility. And she asked me, looks at me, and I'm famous for saying this, but she said, Juanita, I just watch you work so hard. This job doesn't even pay. And what drives you? I don't understand. She will go out and vote, but that's as far as she'll get involved. And she's a good friend of mine, but we're so different. And I told her it's because I'm crazy enough to think that I can make a difference. And she will never forget that. She always still tells me that. And I say, basically, yes, I'm crazy enough to think that me, Juanita Martinez, down here on the border, who, before all this happened on the border, nobody had ever heard of Eagle Pass, but somebody had to do it. And I stepped up, and we made history by having the first, can you believe it? The first brick and mortar headquarters in Maverick County. The very first. Now I'm very proud to say we actually have a Democrat regional office here, where when we get the funding, because we are surrounded by red counties, little red county, Uvalde, after the massacre, they still stayed red. That just blew my mind. I can't believe it. So through the regional office, we are trying to get funding to go out and hit Del Rio and hit Uvalde. Those are the 2 main ones, and do some Democrat work there. So anyway, I talk too much, but thank you for listening.
No, and we are so grateful for the work that you do down there and the way that it impacts all those counties around you. It really is wonderful. All right. And jumping on to last but not least, Michael.
Well, hey, everyone, and thanks for inviting me to tonight's panel. And to be honest with you, I'm kind of like a lot of young, well, I'm not young, but the young county chairs is that I didn't ask to be the county chair. I was appointed county chair because we had a resignation and we had to have a replacement. But I've been an active precinct chair. I had attended 3 state conventions as a delegate, and I even attended a county chair's legislative review down in Austin. So I was kind of learning about what a county chair's responsibilities and everything were, but I did not know what I was getting myself into when I accepted the appointment. And so in that year, we really became active in August of 2021. And about 5 weeks later, we had a special election that I'd never run an election before. And so we had for a House District 10. And so I had no clue. And so the thing is I reached out to my neighboring Democratic chairs, and I got some tremendous support from Kelly Blackburn in Ellis County, and from other activists around from Van Zant and Smith County and Anderson. I'd never had reached out to them before, but that's part of what being a county chair is all about, is because you have family, people are in the trenches right there with you, going through the same things, and we help each other out. And so, 2021 we were just coming at the end of COVID. Well, not, as far as being able to get vaccines and shots and everything and starting moving forward, we could start meeting again together. If you recall, our 2020 state convention was virtual. And so we were all looking forward to going forward. So I got through that special election, and guess what? We had to move into a primary. And then, so that was all new. And then from the primary, we went to the state convention. And then, oh, by the way, in between that, we had another resignation due to health reasons for the SD3 committee position. And so I was asked to join that. Well, a glutton for punishment, I accepted that role as well. And so in addition to all that, I ran for office as a city commissioner. A city councilman. And so I'm playing all these, I've got all these hats on, and I don't make any money from any of them, but it's a lot of time and it's a lot of heart. And that's exactly what's at the bottom of all this, is that county chairs are the heart of that party. They're the leaders, they're the face of the party, but they can't do it alone. They need the support of their precinct chairs, and they need the support of their activists, and they need the support of their adjoining neighbors, whether they're in the same Senate district or not. They just need support. And it's just like family. You have a family network, and we help each other and everything. And that's what I've come to learn about the Texas Democratic Party, is that we are family. And as one of our activists in Cherokee County always says, it takes a village, and it really does. We are the village. And so I appreciate it. This is going to be an exciting electoral year coming up, and we have our work cut out for us. I'm in a deep red county. I mean, we're about as red as you can get in the state of Texas. I'm lucky to get 20% of the vote. And of that, it's only half of my registered voters. And that's on a good election. And so, it's a challenge. And that's a lot of our East Texas and some of our rural counties, is that's a challenge, but it's a challenge that we can overcome. So the thing is that we want to make our presence known and being consistent. And so as a county chair, you have to be the face and the voice of the Democratic Party, representing your constituents and representing the state. And so don't be afraid when you become county chair, because I haven't had all the interviews that other people have had. And it's just something you have to be ready to step up to and be part of. So I want to thank everyone for letting me be here tonight.
No, thank you. And I think you really touched on some of the trial by fire that I would say all county chairs have experienced. And maybe it's not running the primary for all of us, but it comes in a lot of different forms. And you mentioned too, being in a really red area, your neck of the woods has some pretty predominant Republican elected officials, including a mayor who ran on passing that anti-trafficking ordinance, which prohibited the passage of individuals, as we've heard in the news, seeking reproductive health care in other states. I mean, Henderson County was really on the front lines in that fight. And you and other activists on the ground helped to organize your communities to successfully defeat that measure. And I'm wondering, what do you think that victory means for Democrats in your county? And does that point to something bigger and, a broader narrative across the state?
Yeah, that's a great question, because that initiative that happened with the city of Chandler, we were kind of didn't expect that to be happening. We recently lost an election, an ordinance that passed in the city of Athens. They actually became a sanctuary city where they had similar rules and everything, but that went around the city council because the city council denied it. And then it was a written petition by church organization, and they were able to get about 500 more votes, and it passed, right? So they became a sanctuary city. And the city of Chandler, they denied it 3 times before it kind of slipped back through again with this new mayor. And when word got out, and I have to give kudos to the activists in Smith County, like Nancy Nichols and Van Zant, Ann Nelson, and in Cherokee County, we have a fantastic activist there, Jennifer Murphy-Vick. And the thing is that it takes all of these coming together and working their networks to be able to get there. So, to be honest, when we got there for the hearing, they had a great oppositional team too supporting that initiative, and because it came out of the church community, and they felt very strong about it. And the statewide initiative is coming out of a church-based group. And so the thing is we had as many speakers as they did, and both sides were very impassioned. The press was there, and I was the only county chair that stepped in and talked. There was a letter written by the Republican who supported all those reasons why they wanted to have this passed. But in the end, the council understood that this was not something that they wanted to pass on, and so they defeated it. And it was great. It got a lot of coverage and everything like that. But for us and our activists around the adjoining counties, it was a remotivator, and it got us back together. It got us energized about working with the legislature right now on school vouchers and getting postcards sent in and everything, and making sure that we try to get that failed. And guess what? It's failed so far because now it's in its fourth session. And so what does this mean for the rest of the state? Well, the rest of the state really needs to be aware that this initiative is not going to go away, and it's going to take the support of that county wherever it's going to be taking place. And right now, this particular type of initiative, as far as restricting travel for people, for young women or any woman trying to get health care, is going to be the border counties. And so right now there's initiatives going on trying to restrict travel out of the state of Texas across counties leading into New Mexico. They're going to try to do Oklahoma. They're going to try to go back into East Texas and do all of Louisiana as well. And so we have to keep our eyes and ears open to make sure that this does not continue going on. And so this is just one of many initiatives that all of us across the party have to be able to stand up and have a voice. And I was only a spokesman. They asked me to participate, get involved, make a presentation against it and everything. And that's what I did. But I was just one part. It wasn't me. It was the activists and the team that made it happen. And so that's the secret, is that it's not one person doing it. It's that village that we talk about, getting everyone together. And it's about being impassioned and supporting. And you don't have to be great with words or anything like that. It has to come from the heart. And when you start talking from the heart, people start listening to you. And so that's all I really have to say in regards to that. I think it's just something that everyone in the state of Texas, as far as a Democrat, has to pay due diligence as far as what's happening in their counties. So.
Absolutely. I think that that idea that every race matters, every vote matters, all of those activists, every council vote, everything that's happening across the state is really, really relevant. And I think we've seen that in communities like yours. I'm a native East Texan, and so I was really happy to see that Chandler fight end the way it did. But we're seeing it everywhere, and we're seeing some really cool wins, which gives me a great segue into talking about Collin County, because we've seen this real shift since I've joined the political narrative, where we've got ourselves a purple county up in Collin County. And so, Sheena, you recently took on that role representing that purple county, and it is also really important. And we've seen tremendous growth in population. And I guess I'm really asking is, when you stepped into that role, what was the most important thing that you felt the need to tackle first coming into that job?
Yeah, thank you, Hannah. So you're right. I actually ran for office in 2022, and it was deeply red. But before that was some redistricting. So I think people saw on the horizon what was coming, and they tried to gerrymander that out so that it wouldn't turn. But it's a force. The demographics are changing, and it's just a matter of time. So when I stepped into the role, and similar to what Michael mentioned, it was a resignation, quite honestly. And so stepping into where it's not an exact timing, and it's not perfectly orchestrated, there's a little bit of chaos. So when I stepped into the role, again, realizing and recognizing this is an opportunity. This is a huge opportunity. It is shifting. We had the wind at our back. We had our first elected Democrat in the county, which was tremendous. So stepping into the role, I really felt that we needed to make sure that we didn't fumble the ball, that we restored some common sense, some structure, some organization, some leadership, some unity in our community. So really just trying to help us all, band together, stronger together, be resilient, and again, help to improve the brand and reputation that was out there for the county, not just from the outside, but also from the inside. So really working on restoring and repairing some relationships, rebuilding some trust. I was excited because I had the opportunity to rebuild a team as well. And so that is tremendously important. As Michael said, we can't do it all. And as county chairs, we know that, but sometimes we try and shoulder too much. So it's fantastic that we have so many leaders in our community who want to help and who are ready to support the county. We also are very fortunate in Collin County, we have so many Democratic clubs. So again, I wanted to make sure we pulled everybody together so we're all rowing in one direction, because that was tremendously important to me. And I apologize, my phone has dropped a few times and you've probably seen the ceiling. But again, this important conversation I could not miss. So thank you guys for bearing with me through this. But I just wanted to make sure that we tried to organize what needed to happen first. There is so much to do in a normal time. We had actually municipal races going on. We had some outside challenges happening. We actually had a mass shooting that happened in the county a couple of weeks after I was elected. We had the Paxton trials that happened this summer. We have a presidential election coming up. So there was a few things, and a convention. So a few things, right, that are happening. So really I'm so thankful and grateful that we have the leaders in our community who have stepped up and who are there with me day in and day out, getting this ship righted and making sure that we are on the right path. Because again, there's a lot of things that are urgent. Some things are important. Not everything is urgent and important, but they are there to help me support our county and just to make sure that we're in it together, right? We're united. So I think a lot of people have predicted that this county will actually flip in 2026. But I tell you, people are performing. So polls, they are the predictors, but the people on the ground, they know what needs to be done. And we have a tremendous amount of people who are really fighting hard to make sure that that happens a little sooner than in 2026. So I'm excited, just the opportunities. Again, we're trying to turn down all the distractions and the noise and just really amplify the positive opportunity we have in front of us in this county, because we know what's at stake and we're ready. Hannah, are you there? Oh my gosh, I may have frozen. I don't know.
I think we lost her.
Yeah, she may
Oh
be.
my goodness. Okay, I
think we
thought it was
lost-
me.
No, I did want to comment. That is so interesting. But
No worries.
somebody also mentioned about getting other groups involved. And let me tell you, the situation here on the border, what they've been doing, we have an amazing, it's called the Border Coalition Group. And it's a bunch of mostly young kids, and they are there fighting for the river, fighting for the immigrants, holding vigils where we put flowers in the river, for the people that have died. It's such an emotional situation down here on the border, but you're right. I love that. A big shout out to that Border Coalition, to Robbie Flores and her brother Alex. They are amazing. And we are here as a Democrat Party to support them 100%, to show up for all the events, to be there and do demonstrations, surrounded by troopers who are telling us we can't be there in this public park that belongs to the city, to us. We pay taxes for that park, and they're telling us we can't be there. Well, this attorney from Laredo was there, thank God, and he's like, oh, we are not going anywhere. And, it was just so exciting and so nice that we had people from Laredo coming down here with the Border Coalition, helping us do those demonstrations on the river. And okay, I won't say anymore, but yes, thank you. Big shout out to the Border Coalition.
Well, I think, Juanita, you're talking about kind of just all of the groups banding together. And I think that's the beautiful thing that's happening right now. We are realizing our power and our strength in numbers. And so this big tent, now we're starting to organize ourselves all under that big tent and move in the same direction. So Hannah, we'll turn it back over to you.
Y'all are the best. I had to laugh because it was the moment you mentioned you were cutting out, and I thought, no, she's doing great. I'm amazed that my rural internet has held up, and there it went. So thank y'all for rolling with the punches and for saying exactly what I was going to say to transition us to the next question, which is that anybody who has worked in county or state party politics can see that the theme of all of that work when we're successful is that coordination and the unity and that teamwork that all three of y'all have just touched on, whether it is coming in and prioritizing tasks and figuring out the difference between important and urgent in Collin County, or banding together folks from all of these bordering counties together out to, get over an abortion ordinance, or the Border Coalition down in your neck of the woods, Juanita. That is, I think, the beautiful and emblematic work that really and truly represents what we're doing when we are succeeding, is that we are all teaming up together to make these things happen. And I think that's really true in all of the counties that each of y'all represent. So in John's case, I'm going to transition over to pick on Hayes for a little while. For each election, Texas Democratic Party's data department builds modeled expectations for Democratic performance. And in 2022, y'all in Hayes County were one of the best performing counties relative to those expectations. So from engaging volunteers to hiring a team, managing various stakeholders, we all know that running a campaign program is a massive labor of love, and a lot of that coordination we just talked about. So can you talk us through how you teed yourself up for that big win last year?
Sure. I mean, I think the biggest issue was, folks, for a lot of us, a lot of the sense of victory is just simply convincing people it can be done. You have so many people that just for so many years, now have just felt this defeatist attitude that, we'll never go blue. And you've just got to basically keep, grinding away. And what we did here is when people finally realized that our biggest problem was that it wasn't that people weren't voting Democrat, they just weren't voting Democrat all the way down the ballot. And so one of the things I was the proudest of that we did last year was we literally went to all of our candidates and said, down ballot races, if you don't finish every speech with, I'm Elaine Brown, I'm running for County Court at Law number 3, I'm literally going to be one of the last elections on your ballot, issues on your ballot, please finish your ballot and vote for me. And that was repeated by our DA and by every candidate And ultimately, as I said earlier, we went from 4,000 votes to 1,300, and that flipped everything. I mean, the Republican county judge candidate spent $275,000 trying to defeat our incumbent, running just a pure negative campaign. He didn't win. You know, the DA spent $400,000, you know, and our DA candidate ended up winning by 5,000 votes. So it was, you know, the next phase for us is the herding cats phase. We have all these volunteers. Earlier in February, we appointed over 150, we filled 150 slots with over 100 different people on all of our boards and commissions within the party, from fundraising to GOTV to comms. And, you know, that's trying to give some purpose, you know, for all of these people that want to engage. You know, I grew up in West Texas. I grew up out in Big Spring, and, you know, so I know the other side of this on the rural county side is that they're still at that point of, you know, that's what I loved about the Beto campaign, when he went to every dairy, you know, every town with a Dairy Queen, and people showed up and they were like, oh, wait a minute, you're a Democrat too? I mean, it was just it finally gave them the sense that, yes, there are other Democrats out there. We've been under the radar, and now we feel like we can come forward. And I think that what I hope Hays County is able to do is just show the tide is turning. You know, if you'll go out there and give these voters, whether it's that knocking on the, you know, I have a 5 to 7 rule. We want to talk to every voter that we want to talk to between 5 and 7 times in every election, whether that's knocking on their door, that's a piece of mail, a yard sign in a yard. Yard sign in an empty lot doesn't count. The yard sign in a yard is an endorsement. And, you know, and once you kind of do those kind of things, you know, good things will happen. And so that's what we did in 2022. We had a massive social media because we are sandwiched between the University of Texas and Texas State. So we have a lot of younger people that we had to be able to reach, and, you know, and they're always on their phones, always doing Instagram. As my daughter tells me, Dad, it's not Facebook, it's Instagram. And, you know, those kind of things. That's what we had to do. And we did it on a massive scale. And a lot of it was by the volunteer forces. And then, of course, we have a growing population, a lot of folks, you know, a lot of good neighborhoods. So we were able to knock on a lot of doors that, you know, some communities can't do because the houses are too far apart. And it was just a combination of all of the above. And, you know, now our biggest problem is that we are the big tent party. And now we have Republicans wanting to come sneak in and run as Democrats because they know they can't win as a Republican.
Absolutely. Yeah, y'all have done some really amazing work across the board, and I am super excited to see that continue. And that shared messaging all the way down the ballot, finish your ballot, is such a really concrete embodiment of that coordination that was really, really successful for y'all. So we are super excited to see the work that's happening in Hays County. I always hear lots of good things from our young Dems out at Texas State and all sorts of folks that are connected in y'all's neck of the woods. So we are very, very much looking forward to hearing more good things out of places like Hays. So, and headed back down south, Juanita, we've heard from our chairs on this call about topics like building infrastructure for your county party, running coordinated campaigns, victories within organizing in your communities at the county level. Maverick County is one of our border counties in Texas and is directly impacted from issues like immigration. And with all of those responsibilities of a chair in front of you, can you tell us about why you feel like it's important to center those stories of community members in your advocacy?
You know, it's been like difficult when I heard somebody mention Beto. Judge Hinojosa asked me to go with him to Philadelphia and then St. Louis, Missouri, to literally just pitch for Texas. And I did pitch for Texas. I told them, I know I'll get to your question, but I told them we had the right candidate, but we needed help from the rest of the United States for you all to come to Texas, help us make Texas blue. I said, just like you did in Georgia. And we had quite a few conversations up there. Again, went and spoke in St. Louis, Missouri. We passed a resolution against the inhumane treatment that Abbott has been, exercising here on the immigrants. Just speaking out. But as far as locally, when Beto says, because this is your, directly to what you asked, when Beto says Texas is not a red state, I believe that in my heart. I know he's right.
Amen.
It is a non-voting state. And I believe so strongly that as long as we do the work, we get out there and knock on doors and make phone calls and get the people out, the ones that don't vote, and that's my main objective. In my heart, I know that sounds simplistic, but that's what we need to do. We need to get out there, convince them that they have to come out to vote, and letting them know this is what happens. Because a lot of people do have that attitude. Like, I was too busy, I was working, and anyway, what's one vote? And what does it matter? Really, people have that. So we need to get out there, do some deep canvassing, which is what we're doing right now. About procedure, the precinct chairs, all of our precinct chairs, they have a list right now of people that did not vote at the last election. And they are going to take that list and do some deep canvassing. And I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm going to accompany each. We're going to do one different days. And I'm going to go with each precinct chair to their precinct, do some deep canvassing and talk to people, let them know how important it is to vote. That's what we're working on. That's our plan right now, is those lists that I printed out for them, and they're printed because we do work with MAD, but I printed them so they could see, here is Doña Maria, and she didn't come out to vote. We need to go and visit with Doña Maria, bring her an empanada, bring her something. Let's do some deep canvassing. Let's work on the people that did not vote, because Beto's absolutely right. We are not a freaking red state. We're a non-voting state. We have to change that. And it's going to take a lot of hard work. And sometimes, believe me, it's tiring, and I'm retired, so I have the time. I can't imagine chairs that have their job and then they do this on the side. I admire you, because I'm retired. I'm an empty nester, and even for me, it's draining. So salute to you all who have a full-time job and then do this. God bless you guys, but I think I've said enough.
Oh, thank you so much, Chairwoman. And I couldn't agree more that truly the stories that we center are those stories of real Texans. And if there is anybody whose story needs to be centered and shared and just all over the state and even beyond that, are the families in your community and in Uvalde, because that is a change that Democrats are advocating for, and that Democrats have solutions, realistic, practical solutions for, and showing people the real impact that policy has, I think, is something that we can always be doing and doing our best at in our communities, because no one knows each of y'all's counties any better than the folks on this call. You are the ones who are going to lead that charge and find the experts and be the experts to share, the things that are most relevant to these elections as they come upon us, whether they're the primary or the general coming up in 2024. We're really grateful for that. So it looks like we have about 10 minutes for questions for panelists. So if you've got a question for a panelist that you've heard from today, drop that in the chat and we will get through as many as we can. We'd love to hear y'all's experiences and what questions you have about being a county chair and all of that. And one of my favorite sentiments in the chat from earlier was that teamwork makes the dream work. That is one that I have used many times around Texas Young Dems, and one that I think really resonates here across all of these county chairs. And while we wait for those questions to roll in, do any of my panelists have anything that they've really loved in terms of organizing, a skill you've learned, a person whose door you've knocked on, something that really stood out to you over the years? John, did I see you? Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I had a message I just wanted to give. As somebody
Oh, please.
who, born and raised in Texas, as said, West Texas, I was worked on the field director for Gary and Ann. And one of the things that I hear people say consistently about Texas going blue is that, that we just need to not pay attention to the rural counties. They're lost. They're red. We don't need to worry about them. And I basically adamantly say that is a wrong notion, because here's the bottom line. In 2018, Beto won 34 counties, 32 counties, and they were almost all urban and suburban. And I was working. I had an election client in Brown County, and we were doing an election in Brown County, and at the same time, Hays County, Beto wins Hays County by a little over 10,000 votes. We had at that time had 150,000 registered voters, and Beto wins by 10,000 votes. In Brown County, we were doing the election. Beto loses the county 90-10, and it was 10,000 votes. And so that one county of 36,000 registered voters just negated that county of 150,000 registered voters. And so what I tell people all the time is, we don't have to win these rural counties. We just can't lose them 80-20, 90-10. And so I encourage the party, I encourage those of us in counties that we have, where we've been blessed to be able to have the mounds of volunteers and people, that we have to be able to expand to go help some of these, other rural counties that we don't need to win them. But if if every county in Texas was just a 10% difference, instead of 90-10, it was 80-20, 80. If it was 80, it was 70. We'd have U.S. Senator Beto up for re-election right now. And so that's the main message that we have to remind ourselves, is that winning doesn't mean winning the county. Sometimes winning is just not, is being able to just knock down their margins. And so I encourage everybody that that's the motivation, because eventually, when all it takes is for us to win one blue statewide, when that happens, nationally, everything will change, because the Republicans understand that if Texas ever goes blue in a presidential, they cannot mathematically win the White House. So
absolutely.
That was my stump speech there.
A good addition to the conversation, and one I love as a now recovering West Texan. I spent a lot of time in Big Spring while I was out there, and we always see folks who, like you said, are, oh, you're a Democrat. We have folks come in the door and they're just excited, and that's that's why county chairs are the front lines of democracy, because you're there when those conversations happen, when everybody realizes it's a little bit less scary to be a Democrat in your community, or it's a little bit less scary to file to run for office in a place where maybe you're used to voting blue and having neighbors who vote blue, but you're ready to jump in and be a part of that, or you're ready to jump in, be a precinct chair, serve on a ballot board, help, reinforce all of these good strongholds, make sure our elections are accessible to people and safe, and just so many other really, really good characteristics that we can do as party officers. So checking on the chat, definitely see some questions rolling in, trying to source through some things. But one of the questions I saw early is some things that y'all saw successfully getting Democrats to the polls. Where in your communities, where did you find that motivation? Juanita, you mentioned giving somebody who hasn't voted yet an empanada and dragging her to the polls. I love that. I thought that was a great addition. But where have y'all seen that success?
Well, okay, this is one of the things I would always talk to the Beto volunteers about, because we work with Beto Austin, other places. We would go drive over there and help with his events. Amazing events, by the way. I can't believe he lost. But I saw so many volunteers. And what I try to explain to everybody is Maverick County is one of the poorest counties in Texas. It's difficult. Aside from the precinct chairs, it's difficult to find volunteers. But let me tell you what we did. All the candidates, like I said, I was determined, and I said, I will be, you know what, to have a Republican win in our county. Luckily, nobody did. We kept them down. We're still we're still a blue county. All those Republican challengers lost. But so what we did before that was we got all of the candidates to come, and we spent all night putting packets together of all the Democrats that were running. And then we would put theirs, depending on what precinct they were running in, if it wasn't countywide. We put packets together. We were here till 2 a.m, and we put the packets together. We told them, meet us at the plaza, bring your volunteers, and you're going to go door to door passing these packets. But they were not just giving out their pamphlet. They were passing out the whole packet, which had all of the Democrat candidates on that packet. That worked out real well because where we didn't have those volunteers, these candidates did. They had their families, and it was really amazing. They had their families, they had their friends, they had everybody. So here we had a bunch of volunteers that were not really volunteers for us, but they were volunteers for their candidate. But they passed out all the Democrat candidates' merchandise, pamphlets, everything. So that worked out real well that year. We had only one candidate who refused to come and pick up his packets, but that worked out real well. I love that. It was awesome.
Hey,
That's
Hannah,
wonderful.
this is Sheena. Can I add on to a little bit of what John and what
Sure.
you just
Absolutely.
said?
Please do.
I would say part of what we are seeing in Collin County is that incremental change, right? And even though our county hasn't quite made that leap to go blue, like you mentioned, or purple, we are still seeing some benefits of that incremental change. So we have 31 cities and towns within Collin County, 1.19 million people. So it's a big county. And I would say we are still seeing some benefits because now we have more precincts that did go blue. So now we have the opportunity to have more election judges who are Democrats, as opposed to being the alternate judge. That welcoming, that feeling, that culture, that environment, all of those things, they breed success, they breed momentum, they breed possibilities and opportunities. So again, we're able to recruit a few more people now. We're able to convince a few more candidates now. The opposite end of Maverick is Collin County. We are one of the wealthiest counties, but because of the fear factor, it's been difficult for us to even get volunteers. But when we start to see some of this momentum, these incremental changes and shifts, and seeing more Democrats, people helping one another, that big tent mentality, and people pitching in, it does matter. It does matter. So I would say to anyone who's thinking about being a county chair, even the county chairs who are on this call who maybe just need a little inspiration and pat on the back, it matters. Every little thing matters. We have to just string these wins together because it is making a difference. They are very fearful of us, which is why they keep trying all of these tricks to try and pull us apart from one another. So we have to stay strong. We have to stay together. We have to stay united. And I love the fact that as county chairs, we can call each other and work that out. But even what you said about volunteers and candidates and campaigns, we just have to convince folks that it is a winning strategy. We all just have to be in it together.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so I can make a comment if you don't mind, and that is
Please.
part of what happened to us here in Henderson County is that we weren't present. I mean, no one knew that the Democrats existed. I mean, they were there and they were voting, but no one really saw there was no presence. And so part of our success as far as rebuilding is that we obtained a physical presence, which was an office. Now, we were fortunate it was donated to us, right? So that's one thing. If you have someone that has a house and they can let you use it, it's a presence where you can meet and organize and then get some signage out and things like that. So people start seeing that, hey, there's a Democrat here. And the thing is if you can get it down near your city center, that's even better because people go to the courthouse and everything like that. And trust me, I still have a Beto sign, big Beto sign on the side of our building because I just want to keep sticking it in their eye. I'm waiting for the primary to put up a new sign for our presidential candidate, right? But the thing is that you got to keep sticking them in the eye a little bit, and a presence helps that do. And so the other thing is that you have to build a team, and that team has to have ownership in what you're doing in your county. And the way that I kind of discovered how to make that work is that you form some committees to have some functions, and you give that over to them and let them run with it. Going to make mistakes and things, but the thing is that they have ownership of what's happening in the county and moving forward. And those are your activists. They're the precinct chairs, and your activists help start building and getting out. And guess what? That becomes people just start seeing that all around the county. Other thing as a county chair is that I attend my county commissioners meeting every week. I've been doing that ever since I became county chair. And the thing there is two things. They're all Republicans, but they know who I am, and they know I represent all the Democrats in Henderson County. And I can talk to them on a personal basis, and we have to meet, and we have to deal with, assigning judges. And I was involved in the redistricting and everything. So they know that whoever you are as a county chair, you need to make yourself known to them because they represent the constituents within each of their districts. So, you are the leader, and you need to get out there and become visible and vocal. Don't be afraid to be vocal. So that's all I wanted to bring to the table.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all. And first, I have to say thank you for stepping up to be county chairs. Like I said, I know exactly how hard that job is, and I am so grateful for the work that y'all are doing and for your communities, because I know first and foremost that means how much you care about this party and how much you care about your communities, and that is just endlessly valuable. And two, I want to thank everyone who joined us today. I hope that you're coming away from this conversation thinking about being a precinct chair, thinking about joining your CEC in another capacity, maybe even running for county chair. Filing opens to run for county chair here in not very long at all. So if that is on your radar, please lean into those networks, reach out to the Texas Democratic Party, reach out to, other folks in your community, the panelists on this panel, and any number of us who really are a big part of that big tent party, who are part of that Texas Democratic family, and who are interested in continuing serving as the front lines of democracy and making sure that we are still doing this work to protect our state and our elections and our values here as Texas Democrats. So if I have to, ask anything of you, is to figure out what role you can play to support your county party or your county party chair. And that is a challenge that I know each of us will take on in different ways, but there are so many different ways that you, whether as a donor or a volunteer or a candidate or a precinct chair or any number of other things, can make an immeasurable impact across not just your county, but hopefully the great state of Texas. So with all of that, thank you all so much. Have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday night, and on to 2024.